Well, I think, like, for real now, third time, I think for real, we're done with the fuel system. I think I'm finally happy with it. George has checked it out. She's happy with it. I did do a few little changes in here and there, but essentially we've got a primary tank. We have fuel that comes out here through our main shut off valve. This is going to have a remote cable on it for emergency fuel shut off, and it'll come down here. We'll go into a T. This will become a 3/8 line, which has a shut off valve to a bulb. And this bypass essentially lets me close off this line and pump fuel through here when I need to reprime my system. But otherwise, the primary fuel will run through here, and then that will be turned off. They'll join up, come into the inlet. This filters down to 30 microns in our pre-filter. Jumps through the leg here. This leg is going to be made long enough so that it can just be unscrewed and jump over to this hub, this outlet if I need to bypass this filter. And then fuel comes out here after going through 10 micron filter, which is a good polish, very fine system. Will come out here to a 3-way valve, and this is new. I decided to add this. So essentially, if I want to run my fuel pumps, I will divert fuel down this way and into these ports. And then they will come out, join up, and become part of this system here. So this is going to be where we're going to have fuel come from the filters or from the filters and the pump. And it will come here and go right into the day tank. So my day tank will have just like very super clean, highly polished fuel. I'm going to try to get it above the engine to where I can have gravity feed if I need to. But this will come out, run through a shut-off valve here, and it will go into a T, which can go into the engine, will come out of the engine into the return line, which is this big yellow cable. The other T will come over here into a needle valve, which will go into copper line. That ends up coming here to the inlet of my Dickinson diesel stove. It'll fill up that bowl. If I have any overflow, it'll come down here. Once again, we're in the copper line, 3 feet here and 3 feet here minimum. And then I did add a check valve just so that I won't have any back pressure feeding into that and potentially flood the valve. And then, of course, this line right here that I have sets up, this actually goes to the stove itself. So that's awesome. And so basically we've got these 2 return lines coming here through the yellow cable, which comes up here. And I return all the fuel to the primary tank. And the reason I'm doing that is because if it's been through the engine, it's going to be warmer, really hot. And so this is a good way to put it back into the primary tank and help cool it. Plus, we will be adding some very finely polished fuel back into this tank and then pulling it out to circulate again. So this tank will continually be cleaned up, which I think is great. But I want to primarily feed my fuel lines into the day tank. Now I am going to do an overflow here, probably at least a 1/2 inch, so that once this tank is full, it will overflow back into this tank automatically. So I should be able to turn on the system and not worry about with 3/8 coming in and 1/2 inch overflow. I should be good. I've also got my 5/8 inch vents coming to a T, coming back around, and I've got my anti-siphon valve there and my vent breather that goes on the outside of the boat with the black backing plate. One of the things I did not touch on but will be right here in the system is going to be my vacuum gauge, and so this will tell me exactly how much vacuum, we're pulling on these filters so that when these start to plug up, that vacuum will increase, and I'll know to go and change those before we have a crisis. So I think that's kind of a neat thing, but I'll just tap this into the line somewhere, and then this is going to go up on the dash at the helm to keep an eye on things. So I think this is the last version of it. I got a few extra parts here. I don't know how you do one of these little projects without ending up with a few extras. I did use Permaflex Formagasket, and if my brass all looks really shiny, it's because I wiped it all down with alcohol and got it cleaned, and then I gave it an acid wash and gave it a spray with some of this Helmsman spar urethane that's good for just keeping everything looking shiny, because it's a new shiny boat. It might as well look like a new shiny boat for a while. The placement on this board is simply just as a mock-up. It's not a final placement, and so the spacing and placement of components will be different once it gets in the boat. This offset will not exist. I just needed to kind of cram everything together, because I actually even have these boxes screwed to the plywood, because this is going to get moved off of my table finally. So that's the fuel system. I have a few fittings like these T's that are coming, and then I've got a couple more of these couplers that I need here for that copper line. And then next month I will be purchasing my fuel hose, the rubber A1 or A2 fuel hose. Now, the A1 you should use with gasoline products and alcohol. I think A2 you can use for your vents and for diesel. I'm probably gonna buy A1 for everything, would be my guess, and just not worry about any of it. So this is the system. I don't have a D tank yet, so when I go to install it, obviously I will omit that, but I've got the components here, and I'm just going to leave everything screwed onto this board and set it aside for now. I thought about boxing it up, and I think just like leaving it on the board is going to be smarter, because I might want to go and tinker with something or look at something, and I can just grab the one piece of board and go work on it. It's a much bigger system than the boat needs. This would probably run 2 motors about 6 times bigger than mine. But I should never have a dirty fuel issue with this. And I've got, 2 filters, 2 pumps, and that way if one thing fails, I can use another as a backup. I think I'm going to try to find a timer or 3 switches to run these guys, and be able to run this polisher without having to go into the engine. And of course, with the layout that I'm going to do, I think it'll be really easy to get access to this. It'll be on the outside of the engine housing, so like this board will be the wall between my little garage and the engine. So I don't have to have the flame protector metal bowls that go underneath this because it's not in the engine compartment. And I just think that's a safer idea at the end of the day, because the engine catches fire, then like all of this won't burn up, maybe because it's on the other side of the wall. So yeah, so there we are. This is all the stuff. It's taken me months to pull it together, and I feel pretty good about it. I don't think there's anything else I can do and tinker with here. So I'm going to get it off my table and go work on some other stuff. So there we go. The latest on my fuel system. And then some of these fittings I think I'm going to just hold on to, because, you just never know when you want to decide. I was going to send them back, but I think I'm just going to hold on to them. It's not that many things, and if I want to make adjustments to this later. I'll have a few spare parts and I'll be able to do that. So it's not that many. I don't like extra stuff laying around because it's a waste of money and space. But I think I'm just going to hold on to those bits. But I'm really happy with it. I mean, overall, I'm really happy. Did the aviation Permitex, which is their forma gasket, and then we won't have any, Teflon tape, that white roll there, just Teflon tape. You don't want to really use that on fuel systems. And I cleaned up all the fittings with alcohol, wiped them down, and then I gave them a bath in some vinegar to take care of some oxidation, and then put some indoor-outdoor Helmsman spar urethane. It has UV protection and all kinds of stuff. But essentially, it's going to keep the shiny bits shiny for a while. And, it's a new boat. I think it should look like a new boat. So, besides, if these are all nice and clean, then we'll be able to tell when there's a leak or a problem. And, having a nice smooth surface will make like wiping down any kind of spills and that kind of stuff a lot easier to clean up. So here is the fuel system. I think it's pretty much done before it goes to get installed. It's like I said, it's probably about 8 times bigger than it needs to be for my little boat, but that's okay. I won't have a day tank initially, so it'll probably get plumbed just to the main tank, a little simpler version of this, and then I can add on later, but it's already all designed and the parts are here. So yay for being done with the fuel system. Oh, George, what do you think, kitten? That's good, huh? Yeah, that makes you happy. Mom could do something else. So there we go. Melton's Miracle has her fuel system all sorted out. Everything's ready to go in the boat. I need to buy fuel hose next month, and I'm probably going to do all A1 fuel line. I think I can do A2 with being diesel. I know I can do it on my vent lines because they're not pressurized, but I'm probably just going to do A2 or A1 on everything and call it good, because that's the better quality fuel line. And yeah, so I got just a few little parts yet to come, some T's and a couple more of these copper pieces, and of course I've got the copper line to go in here so that we won't have rubber lines close to a heat source being the stove. I've checked all the regulations and learned everything I can, and I think this will pass any inspection pretty much. So I feel very good about it. I think it's going to be ABYC compliant, Coast Guard compliant, and it should never leave us on the rocks, which is the best part. All right, guys, so that's the latest from Dive Girl Deb and Melton's Miracle. Fuel system is like done. Woohoo! Bye, guys.